Hey, it's Jay, and here's my review of Quentin Tarantino's latest installment, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, I've been looking forward to this film since it was announced, and finally seeing it for the first time in theaters, it was, oh boy, it was a trip. This is a very fun film. So, as always, let's get into the plot to start things off. So, in February of 1969, actor Rick Dalton, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who is the former star of the hit Western show Bounty Law, is lamenting to his friend and former stunt double Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt, about how his career is basically over and how he's a washed-up actor. Cliff Booth is a former war veteran who lives in his trailer with his pit bull, as constantly driving around with Rick Dalton. I should say driving Rick Dalton around, because Rick Dalton got into a bunch of DUIs, so got his license revoked, and Cliff relies on Rick to get work because there are numerous rumors floating around that Cliff Booth murdered his wife on a fishing trip, so he needs to kind of rely on Rick to get him jobs and gigs. While all this is going on, actress Sharon Tate, played by Margot Robbie, and her husband, Roman Polanski, live right next door to Rick Dalton, and he dreams of one day making friends with them to rekindle his status in Hollywood and, you know, maybe use their success to further his own. At the same time, Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski go to a party hosted by Jay Sebring, played by Emile Hirsch, and it's just this huge celebrity-filled party. Think of like a Great Gatsby level party, which is funny that I'm referencing Great Gatsby seeing as Leo's in this movie. So they're just going to have a great time seeing as, you know, they're very famous and very successful people. So at Dalton's house, Booth is reminiscing about a fight he had with Bruce Lee on the set of The Green Hornet, and while that's going on, Charles Manson, yes, the Charles Manson, stops by Polanski's house and is looking for a record producer that used to live there, but is turned away by Sebring to, you know, because it's Charles Manson, he doesn't really want him there. And then, you know, Cliff Booth goes on a little bit of a joyride to kind of clear his mind, and he picks up the hippie nicknamed Pussycat and takes them back to the ranch that an old friend of his used to live in. And he's very suspicious about, you know, the place that he's in right now, because there are so many hippies squatting around, and he thinks that they're taking advantage of the owner of the ranch. His name is George Spann. Sorry, there's so many names in this movie. I actually have a list here because there's so many names I have to remember and everything like that. So sorry if I'm looking at my notes during this, but wow, there are a lot. So he sees that everything's okay. Well, not really, because he's kind of turned away by George Spann. And yeah, everything's just very strange, especially Squeaky, one of the hippies. She's just talking about how, you know, she fucks George and how everything's great and how he needs to sleep, because if he doesn't sleep, then he's not awake to watch TV with her at night. And if she misses George time, she goes crazy. It's like, whoa, it's a pretty intense scene, and they live in a bit of a pigsty. So it's just a very uncomfortable situation all around. Not to mention that as Booth is going up to George's house, all the hippies, I mean all the hippies, are just standing watching him. And they form a crowd around the house just to see what's going to happen. They're just focused on him just to watch his every move. And they call on Tex, one of the hippies, to go check out Cliff Booth to kind of give him the once-over to see if he's okay. And nothing seems wrong, so Cliff goes off on his, you know, merry way. They host horseback riding tours through the mountains as well, so that's where he's off to, you know, give tours of people who want to see the mountains. And so as he's leaving Cliff Booth, as he's leaving the house, one of the hippies slashes his tires, bursts it, so he can't go anywhere. Now Cliff Booth is a stunt double, and is very lethal. As I'll explain later, he kicks the crap out of Bruce Lee. So this little hippie guy, it was no problem. He destroys him and forces him to fix the tire so he can get out of there. They alert Tex to try to, you know, defuse the situation. And by that time, though, he's gone, tires changed, and Cliff Booth is out of there. So, close call, but there's something wrong with these hippies. There's something about them. We don't know what it is, but we will find out soon enough why they are so strange and why they act the way they do. So, Sharon Tate goes to watch her very own movie, Wrecking Crew. She's able to go in, and it cuts between her watching the movie and her training to do the scenes in Wrecking Crew. And it's really touching, actually, to see her looking around at the audience who's just enjoying the hell out of her performance, laughing, oohing, eyeing, and she's just soaking it all in as this actress. And it's just such a touching scene to see how someone can be so invested in their work and just gets a kick when people are reacting positively to something they've worked extremely hard for. So it's a fun little scene that Margot Robbie kills at how just adorable she could be when she's absorbing all this praise for her performance in this movie. So it looks like things are brightening up for Rick Dalton. He gets a role in the movie Lancer. He's going to play the villain, and he's still very unsure of himself because, you know, he's still under the impression that he's a failure, and he is slowly failing and just becoming nobody. He has a talk with probably one of my favorite characters in the movie, Trudy Frazier, played by Julia Butters, this little girl who's also in the film. And she's just reading books and taking those lessons from the book and kind of helping Rick Dalton, you know, get a little bit more confidence, because he's still a very emotional wreck right now from all the, you know, abuse he took from the beginning of the film, mainly by Marvin Schwartz, played by Al Pacino, who said, listen, if you keep doing Western TV shows for the rest of your life, you're not going to be remembered. You're going to be a nobody in Hollywood that nobody cares about. And that's what kind of sent him on this downward spiral. He trips up a couple times on his lines, and due to his alcoholism, goes on this hysterical rant. I mean hysterical in two different ways. Hysterical because it's freaking hilarious, and hysterical because, well, he's in actual hysterics. He's crying, he's throwing stuff, he's breaking things, punching the door, everything. And it was that pep talk that he kind of told himself, I guess you'd call it a pep talk, that he finally gets out there and delivers a performance so impressive that everybody around him, Trudy, the director, Sam Wanamaker, it's just, everyone is floored by his performance, thus bolstering his confidence more and makes him realize that maybe I'm not down and out yet. Maybe I still have a couple more kicks in me and a little bit more steam to keep going and to, you know, heighten my career just a little bit more until I'm back where I was when I was doing Bounty Law. So after watching Rick Dalton's little stint on the FBI, casting agent Marvin Schwartz, again played by Al Pacino, calls up Dalton and asks him if he wants to do a spaghetti western in Italy. Now, Rick Dalton feels that spaghetti westerns are kind of the lowest form of film in Hollywood, but reluctantly agrees because he, you know, feels like he has nothing else to lose, and he takes Booth with him on this 6-month stint. He does multiple films, including Nebraska Jim with Sergio Corbucci, and he actually gets married. So things, again, are still looking great for Rick Dalton after that horrific drunken outburst he had. It's good to see from an audience perspective that things are looking up for him, because it's a little worrisome what he did in that trailer. So, returning to Los Angeles, in a kind of a sad scene, Rick Dalton informs Cliff Booth that he can no longer afford his services. And so they go their separate ways, but not before one last hurrah to say goodbye to good friends. And they go out for drinks, and they come back. And Cliff Booth had purchased an acid-laced cigarette from a hippie when he went into their area, and smokes it, and then goes to take Brandy, his pit bull, for a walk. While this is all happening, 4 hippies show up, including Tex, to murder everybody who's in the Tate household right now, because it's revealed that these hippies are, in fact, Charles Manson cult followers. And so they were told by Charles Manson to go kill everybody in the Tate household. However, Rick Dalton kind of scares them away by just yelling at them, screaming at them, threatening to shoot them and all that. And then that's when they really snap, and it's like, what are we doing? Why are we running? Let's get in there. Let's kill them. That's what we were told to do. Let's do it. And so they just charge into Rick Dalton's house. But Rick Dalton's back in the pool listening to music, just having a good time floating in his pool because he is very drunk right now. However, Cliff Booth, returning home to feed Brandy, is blasting music and is high off his damn mind and doesn't realize that Brandy is barking at intruders. And then he finally realizes that, oh crap, there are intruders coming in. And, he's high out of his mind, and he finally recognizes Tex from the hippie plant, the hippie place. And he finds it funny because, he's high, until Tex pulls the gun out, and then he goes, which is the sign for Brandy to attack. And I gotta tell you something, this last scene makes light of a pretty tragic event, but it is over the top and freaking hilarious in this movie. You're normally a fan of, making a joke out of a tragedy, or not really a tragedy, but like a situation like this. But man, oh man, our theater was erupting. He sends the dog to attack Tex. He takes a can because Brandy's dog food is about this thick, and he football heaves it into one of the girl hippie's face, just caving it in, and then he sicks it on the other chick. And which, by the way, I gotta mention, the fourth hippie chick pretended that she left her knife in the car and just she got the hell out of there. She fled as fast as she could out of there because she didn't want to be a part of this. And so just these gruesome murders take place, and the chick who got her face caved in by Brandy's dog food runs outside with a gun, just flailing it around, shooting wildly into the sky, and ultimately falls into the pool where Dalton is, and he's completely startled because he's just been chilling, listening to music, and has heard nothing that is going on inside. And there was a joke earlier in the movie that Rick Dalton used a flamethrower, and he complained that it was too hot. And so he breaks into the shed, in his own shed, and he comes out with this flamethrower and just scorches that bitch. Scorches her to death. And so the police are called. Rick is injured. He got stabbed in the scuffle, but he was too high to realize he was stabbed before he brutally kicked the shit out of all these crazy psychopathic cult followers. And yeah, so everything was kind of revealed to the Tates and the Polanskis, and they're like, is everyone okay? And so they invite Rick Dalton up to their house, and Rick Dalton has finally achieved his dream of having a drink, just sitting down and talking to the Tates and the Polanskis, and maybe possibly furthering his career even more. And that is the story of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. What is this movie? Seriously, this movie is so out there and wacky, but I love it. Performances by Leo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Margot Robbie were amazing. And like I said before, Margot Robbie's character was pretty quiet in the movie, but every scene she was in, she was the loudest one. And if you get what I mean by that, her emotions, the way she acted, her body language, everything made her the loudest character on the screen with no dialogue being said. It was truly unbelievable. There are also dozens of celebrity cameos. If I listed them right now, they'd add 5 minutes to the video, so I'm just going to pop them up right now so you can see who's in this movie. It's kind of like a Where's Waldo with celebrities. You got to be like, oh, that's blank, that's blank, that's blank. It's really great. The pacing is beautiful in this film. I never once was like, okay, let's hurry this up a bit, because they're all based on real events. You know what I mean. Obviously not this stuff happened in the way they did happen, but they were based on real events. A lot of people are very upset with how Bruce Lee was portrayed in the movie, but I didn't really seem to mind it. I think the over-the-top nature that they presented him with kind of fits with the overall plot of this movie, the overall feel of this movie, so it never really bothered me. And then just top it all off with that insane third act with the fight with the hippies. It was just, wow, it was incredibly well choreographed, as intense and at the same time gory and hilarious. It's weird. It's a beautifully shot scene. Beautiful. The tension and the suspense and, you know, the unsettling nature of the whole scene where Cliff is at the hippie place, George's old ranch, where they actually shot some episodes of Bounty Law. Every time Cliff opened the door, turned the corner, you thought someone was going to come out and attack him, because that's how they made it seem, because they were like, keep an eye on him. I'll keep an eye on him, blah, blah, blah. Don't look at him. Go away. Let's see what he does. Don't mess with George. George doesn't want to talk to you, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff. So much tension. I was, like, uncomfortable. I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, what is going to happen? Who's going to attack this guy? Who's going to have the balls to attack this guy? Because Cliff Booth is scary. He, like I said, he kicked the crap out of Bruce Lee. He, like, throws him into a car. And it's crazy. What else? There's so much. I love Leo DiCaprio's performance in this movie. Especially, it seems weird because where I find Leo the best in this movie is when he's having those drunken outrages, those insane bursts of, you know, chaos, like in the trailer. After he messed up a couple of his lines, like, you could see it building up. Like, whenever he messed up the line, he was like, damn it, get it together, damn it! Like, he just kept, you know, getting angrier and angrier at himself. And then when he gets back into his trailer, he's throwing stuff, breaking bottles, punching mirrors, everything, talking to himself in the mirror like, if you don't get your lines right, I'm going to kill you. So basically saying I'm going to kill myself if I don't get these lines right. That's where I found Leo to be the most entertaining, actually. Not that his performance was bad outside of that, but I thought that just when he was completely disheveled, completely out of his mind, I thought that was his strongest portions of the movie. And Brad Pitt, man, let me tell you something, that's a great actor, and I think that he really deserves an award for this one, because wow, that was a solid performance. Solid performances by everybody, really. Even the small roles, all the celebrity cameos nailed their roles. Again, one of my favorite characters, Trudy Frazier, Julia Butters. You have a great career coming your way, because you are a very, very solid actor. Able to play a sweet, innocent girl, but she also had some feistiness in her. Like you could tell in her eyes, like, she thought that Rick Dalton was the weirdest guy on planet Earth, and she just wanted to snap at him. But then, at the same time, she also saw that he was kind of hurting, and kind of used that to help him out and trying to make him cope with the situations he was dealt. All around, super crazy film. It's very Tarantino. Now, is it as good as something like Pulp Fiction? No. But to compare Pulp Fiction to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood really wouldn't do either film justice, because they're two completely different films. But as far as, you know, Tarantino films go, this is an extremely solid film. And that is why I am giving it a rating of 4 out of 5 stars. It is extremely decent. You should definitely go check it out, especially if you're a fan of kind of it's kind of like a mockumentary, I would say. And I'm just interested in movie making and everything like that. Action. If you're into gore, if you're into comedy, if you're into things like that, it's really a trip, and definitely well worth the wait. I had no doubts that this film was going to be good. And there we go. My expectations were met. So that's all I have to say about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Definitely go check it out, because there's a lot that I left out, but that's just because it's good stuff, and I don't really want to tell everything. So, like, what I described for the last scene doesn't do it justice at all. You actually have to see it to understand why I'm, you know, flailing my arms around describing what's going on in this scene. So, with that concludes my review of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Make sure you guys stay tuned next week, where I will be reviewing my 5th favorite film of all time. Let me try that again. 5th favorite film of all time. And make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, do all that fun stuff, and click that bell icon so you get notified when I upload next. And until next time, guys, that's a wrap.